Email Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them, Episode 94. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I am your host, Moshe Amsel, and I'm super excited to be here with you yet again. Another day, another episode, another, hopefully, life-altering, life-changing event for you. But I really am super happy that you're tuning in to this podcast. You have a lot of choices out there of what you listen to, and I just want to thank you for choosing Profit with Law today. Now, I shared in episode 92 and episode 93 about an upcoming workshop that we have that we're going to be running Monday, May 11th, and that workshop is designed to help you create a system that is going to provide a path, a flow, a traffic pattern for your potential leads to follow to eventually become clients. One of the biggest issues with intake is we focus a lot on finding leads, but we don't necessarily have a really good path for them to follow to become clients. And the problem is that that's really what needs to be done first. The answer to your problem is not to write another blog post. The answer to your problem is not to, start a podcast or run Facebook ads or Google pay-per-click. The answer is that you need to have a system in place to run people through when they find out about you in any of those places or anything that you're doing. If you go online and you chime in a Facebook group or chime in a LinkedIn group or on a LinkedIn post, somebody checks out your profile. Where are they going next after they find out about you? What is their next step? And that's what the Get Clients Now workshop is all about. Now, this is not like our other events. So we have events that we put on. We have the Law Firm Growth Summit main event, and then we have events that we do that are just a single day, and they're free events. This event is, first of all, it's a paid event. Now we drastically reduced the price to $97, so it's almost free. But what's different is that you're not showing up and just being fed a bunch of information. We're actually going to be doing the work hands-on. We're going to be holding your hand, and we're going to be leading you through this process throughout the day of creating this so that when you leave at the end of the day, whether you're technologically savvy or not, you have the system done and ready to go. And that's the key about this whole thing. So go to profitwithlaw.com/get clients now, profitwithlaw.com/get clients now, and you'll get all the details there. But you want to make sure to go there quick because Monday, May 11th is upon us. By the time you're hearing this, you're going to have less than a week leading up to this workshop. And yes, there are going to be recordings available, but I strongly recommend that you earmark the day, set it aside, block your calendar, and join us live because we're going to be able to take your questions live as we go, and it'll be just a wonderful experience. So I'm looking forward to going through that with you and this becoming a great event. Now, before I jump into the topic today about email marketing, I want to share a personal experience that I've had. So this is something I haven't shared before. When I was growing up, it's actually my brother who got into bird watching. So we had a glass sliding door that was behind our dining room table, and somehow either he got a gift or whatever it was, he ended up with a cylinder bird feeder that had suction cups that we stuck on the glass door on the outside and put bird food in it. And sure enough, birds started coming. And we started to get really curious. And my brother really was the instigator of this. He started it, but we partook, and I partook actively, and he got this book from my grandmother, who's not around anymore, but she bought this bird book for him that had pictures of all the birds. It's actually a great book. Anybody who's interested in birds should check it out. It's the Book of North American Birds by Reader's Digest, and we'll link that up in the show notes as well. Make it real easy for you to find. Anyway, so I became really familiar with a lot of the birds in the area through this time. I mean, we're going back to my childhood and then my teenage years. Fast forward to today, we have 2 bird feeders there's a big picture window right in our kitchen, next to our kitchen table. And right on the outside of that window, my wife found these really cool bird feeders that were able to suction cup on the outside of the window and through the side panel windows of the picture window, those 2 windows on the side, we're able to fill the feeder. So we get a really close-up view of birds that are coming and visiting us. Well, this week I saw a bird and I said, wow, I've never seen that bird before. And it was beautiful. It was a smaller bird, not as small as a sparrow, kind of like maybe closer to the size of a cardinal. So about maybe 6 to 8 inches long. And it was black with white stripes on the back. And then on the stomach, it was white with a patch of red, and the head was black. And the beak was larger than the typical beak that you see on the sparrow kind of birds, maybe closer to a cardinal-looking beak. So it's very interesting. I've never seen this bird before, and I only saw it for like an instant, and it flew away. So I immediately pulled out my book and started looking, and sure enough, I found it actually right next to the northern cardinal, and it's called the rose-breasted grosbeak, and I'm actually not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And what's interesting is it ended up coming back, so I was able to confirm my sighting was indeed that bird. But what's interesting is what it says in the book about this bird. And when I read it, I said, you know what, this is something that I have to share. So I'm going to read it to you. It's not that long, and then I'll tell you why I thought this was so interesting. It is a generally accepted theory in birding circles that brightly feathered male birds avoid the nest building and incubating duties that go with raising a family because their coloring attracts predators and reveals the exact location of the nest. Yet many rose-breasted grosbeak males, whose shining black is slashed with white that flashes with every move they make, work diligently beside their sparrow-colored mates through the whole nest-building procedure. Some of them actually build the entire nest while the female brings the materials, and even those that don't take part in the work stand beside their toiling mates and sing their lovely songs over and over again. True, the grosbeaks spend only 2 or 3 days putting together their rather flimsy homes, but they make not the slightest attempt to be secretive. Even the females toss away their natural camouflage advantage by singing while they build. And when the brilliantly colored males take their turn at incubating the eggs, they are just as indiscreet, singing joyously for all the world to hear as they sit there warming their future hatchlings. Still, in spite of snakes, squirrels, jays, and other predators, not to mention the cowbirds who so frequently parasitize their nests, these careless, music-loving grosbeaks somehow manage to bring fair numbers of offspring into the world each year. And the reason that I share this with you, and what struck me, is that here is a bird that it doesn't give two bleeps about anything and the danger around it. And it's going to enjoy its life by hook or by crook with whatever danger that might bring. And I thought it so appropriate in today's day and age with everything that's happening around us to look at this bird and learn from this bird. Face fear in the face. Punch fear in the face. If you want to sing, frickin' sing. If it's going to put you in danger, just hold your head up high and do it anyway. And that might seem counterproductive to the way that we're wired, but the reality is that if you want to get anywhere in life, if you want to be successful in business, you have to be willing to take risks. You have to be willing to face fear and overcome it. Now, I'm not telling you that this means that you should say the heck with social distancing and, I'm just going to go out there and do my thing. It's not really what I'm trying to say, but what I am trying to say is when you're worried about tomorrow, when you're focused on the things that might happen to you, and you don't allow yourself to take forward steps, to take progress forward, to do actions, to just believe that there is future life worth living, that's where you're going to go wrong. That's where you're going to miss the boat. That's what divides and separates the boys from the men. That's what makes people successful versus unsuccessful. And we can learn this from the rose-breasted grosbeak. So just wanted to share that with you. I really, I'm excited about my new find. I got a new bird on my list of birds that I've seen over time. This, I've been in just this little enclave of North America on the northeast portion of the United States of America watching birds. So there's a lot of birds out there that I'd love to see one day and be able to identify. So the journey is far from over, but it's always exciting when you see a new sighting in the area. And that was it for me. And it's a common bird, so it's strange that I haven't seen it before, but there's a first time for everything, as they say, right? So I want to talk about email marketing today. I'm going to jump right in here and just tell you, I titled the show Email Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. I'm not going to list all the mistakes today because there's a lot of them. Didn't have a chance to really sit down and compile a list. So I'm just going to go off the top of my head, mistakes I've made, things that I've learned from marketing, from email marketing that I think I can convey to you today. So the first thing is that to really understand the mistakes you can be making, you need to understand what email marketing is. So email marketing is where you obtain somebody's email address, and through acquisition of that email address, you now can market to that person, meaning you can send them emails that have a marketing intent. And the first mistake that people make is they assume that because they have an email address that they're emailing to, rightfully so, therefore, they can add this person to their newsletter or to their marketing list. And I can tell you from personal experience that the legal industry is the most guilty industry of any industry out there. Practically every lawyer that I have exchanged personally emails with has put me on their newsletter. And you're not allowed to do that. You can't just put somebody on your marketing list. Now, you could, right? There isn't a law against it. In some places, some countries there are. So in European countries, GDPR rules exist. But here in the United States, we don't have the same laws. We have the Can Spam Act, but it's very loose. So you probably could send some unsolicited marketing messages to somebody under the Can Spam Act. But you can't add somebody to your marketing list, not from a legal reason, but from a personal, logistical reason. Nobody wants to be added to a list without permission. They're just not, they're inundated with email. You think that they want to get your newsletter? You think that sending your newsletter to them without permission is going to add to the goodwill bank of that contact with you? No, it's not. Now, you might get lucky and actually be successful with a handful, but there's a lot of people that you're going to piss off and push away in the process. So mistake number one is marketing to people you don't have permission to market to. So that leads us to a question of, okay, what is the right way to obtain an email address? How do I get permission to market to somebody? Well, the first most basic way is to simply ask them. So the first list of email addresses that you have that were not specifically obtained to send marketing messages to is your client list or your prospect list. So you have prospects that have come and gone. Now, many of them have not retained you. They have not become clients, but some have. So those are two separate lists. There are people who have been or are currently prospects, and then there are people who have become clients. So the easiest ones are the clients. You can reach out to your clients and you can say, hey, we're starting a newsletter, or we have a newsletter. And I'm just using newsletter as an example. We could talk about different ways to use email for marketing later in the episode. But this is just an example. Hey, we've got, hey, John Smith, we represented you back in 1992. We have a email newsletter list, and we'd love to know if you'd be interested in having us add you to the list. Now, you can either have him reply, or you can say, if you would like to receive our, marketing emails, our newsletter emails, just click the button below. And by clicking the button, he either automatically gets subscribed to it, or he gets taken to a page where he puts in his name and email address and subscribes to your list. That is one way to do it. And if you're sending it to a prospect, then you can just change the message a little bit. You can say, hey, John Smith, you considered using our firm a while back. You never retained our services. There's, no worries there. We just wanted to know if you'd be interested in being on our email list so that you can receive our newsletters that we send out once a month and any other information and promotional material that we might send. And then same options of how you make that happen logistically. And now you can get their permission to put them on a list. So that is the best way to go about the clients and leads. Now, other people that you interact with on a regular basis. So, for example, the only reason I'm interacting with lawyers is from my business, right? So either from the accounting side or from my coaching business. So there's no reason why I should be on one of my clients' marketing lists unless I signed up for it because I wanted to see what they're doing and give them feedback on it, right? So why am I getting signed up for it? So I need you to ask yourselves that question, right? Just putting every single email address on your list is not effective. I mean, the person that you're adding could be outside of your geographic service area. They could be not not somebody who would ever need your services. So you got to think long and hard about whether it's even worthwhile to try to add these people to your list. You don't want people on your list that aren't your ideal client. You want people who are going to be interested in using your services. Just to have email addresses for the sake of having email addresses is not the purpose of an email list. So that's the first thing that I would do, is just question whether or not you even need their email address. But if you do, then you can just have a something in your signature, where at the bottom of your signature, it says, hey, if you're interested in receiving our monthly newsletter, click here or something. And then anybody who interacts with you will see that in your signature, and they always have the option of signing up for it. If you want to be more direct about it and you want to be more, what is the word I'm looking for? Aggressive. That's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean. If you want to just actually do something about it and ask, then just do that and ask the same way that you would ask your past clients or your past prospects. So that is mistake number one. I think it's a big one. Now, mistake number two is to create a marketing email list, gather email addresses, and then not to send any emails. So understand that when you interact with somebody one time, it creates an impression and it starts a relationship. If you go cold turkey and don't say anything and then show up 3 months later, they're not going to remember who you are. And if they remember, it's going to be a vague recollection. So they're going to start to wonder, why am I getting an email from this person? Did I even sign up, to be on their list? I had this recently. I got an email from somebody out of the blue, and it looked like I got added to a list that I didn't sign up for. I didn't recognize the name. I didn't recognize, so I did a search for the email address, and then I found that a year and a half ago, I had signed up for this person's email list, which I had indeed signed up for it, and he stopped signing the emails with his name. So he became more like, this is email coming from my business and it's coming from the company. So his name wasn't on there anymore. I would have recognized his name right away, but I didn't recognize his business name. And he has sent me a total of 5 emails over the course of the last 18 months. So, of course, I am not going to recognize the name. Now, I went and searched for it. So I said, okay, I'll stay on his email list. It's a friend of mine. But the reality is that, if that was a potential client of yours, you're not going to keep front and center of their mind by emailing them once in a blue moon or not at all. So that mistake is not emailing at all. Now, the next mistake that you could be making is not emailing frequently enough. And this came up on one of my coaching calls recently, and somebody asked, well, how frequent is frequent enough? And I can tell you that no matter how frequently you email, it cannot be too much. Because I've heard this. I've heard people saying, well, I'm afraid to send more emails because I think I'm emailing them too much. People don't want to be inundated with emails. They don't want their mailbox to be full. And I would argue, and I would ask you, is the email that you're sending just for the sake of sending an email, or do you actually have something valuable to share? Wouldn't it be their decision to decide whether they want to receive so many emails from you? They can choose how many emails to open. They can choose whether they want to open your emails. They can choose whether they want to stay subscribed to your list. They can hit the unsubscribe button, right? So why are you afraid to email more frequently? The worst that can happen is they unsubscribe from your list. The best that can happen is you're providing value to them all the time, and they are getting that value, and they want to reciprocate and give value back to you. And how do they do that? Either becoming your client or referring you a client. So you never know what kind of good merit you're building up in the relationship bank by the emails you're sending. My friend Andy Stickle, who was a speaker in the Law Firm Growth Summit, he was a speaker or an expert panelist in our recent COVID live stream series. He was, I believe we had him as a guest here on the show, but I'm not positive. I'd have to look back and check. Andy is known for emailing every day. And when I mentioned this in a call recently, somebody said, yeah, actually multiple times a day sometimes, right? So for those of you who are on his list, you're shaking your head and you're saying, yup, I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, I'm not personally on Andy's list. Maybe I should get on his list. But he emails every single day. Now, why does he do that? Because he doesn't care if you unsubscribe. If you unsubscribe, that is an indication that you're saying, hey, listen, Andy, the stuff that you're saying is not important enough to me. I'm not getting enough value out of it that I don't want to see your name in my inbox every day. And when you do that, you're saying, I'm not interested. I'm not going to look up to you for information. I'm not going to come to you for marketing help. So essentially what he's doing is he's pushing away the people who are not going to be his clients anyway. And the people who are going to be his clients potentially in whatever shape or form are getting an email from him every single day. They feel like this guy, Andy, is their best friend. So you can't email too much. You're not going to email every day. it takes a very unique individual to have the ability to churn out an email every day. And I'm not talking about having the time to do it. I'm talking about being able to put words on, it's not on paper, obviously, but put words to paper that creates value every single day to your clients. To say something to them every single day that creates value. It is hard. I know. I mean, I personally don't have a consistent email strategy. And, something we're working on here, I would like to send out an email every time a podcast comes out, but I don't have the bandwidth myself right now to do that. I just don't have, it takes time for me to compose an email, to think about how to present it, how to write it, how to do it in a way that it actually provides value, even if somebody doesn't click through to the podcast, that they got something from the email that they read. And so that it's not easy. It's just not easy. So you can't email too frequently. So what I will do, what is the advice? So I just gave you two cardinal sins. One is not emailing at all. And the second is not emailing frequently enough. So the advice is to choose a cadence that you're comfortable with and make it consistent. That's the key. If you make it consistent, if you make it like clockwork, then they get used to seeing your name on that frequency. And that becomes something that is a endearment for you. That is something that is going to build that goodwill and in the bank that you need to get referrals or to get a client out of that person. So if once a month is where you're at, then do it once a month. But set a date. It's going to be every month on the 5th of the month, my email goes out, or every month on the 1st of the month, my email goes out. The best frequency, because I've had this question, the answer to the best frequency is you got to test it and you got to see what works for you and what works for your clients, what they find value in. And the email software will give you open rates, the rates that people are opening it. If you're giving them things to click through to, the click-through rates, and you'll be able to see when those numbers increase or decrease based on your frequency. But I honestly think that the primary factor in deciding the frequency should be your own bandwidth and availability and ability to stick to it. So let's talk about what is the purpose of email marketing in general. And this, I think, is probably the last mistake that I'm going to share with you. And it's not necessarily a mistake, but we'll make it a mistake, right? So how is it a mistake? Lack of clarity about what email marketing is intended to do is the next mistake that you can make. And what I mean by that is that lack of clarity is going to create a situation where your emails are ineffective. So great, you listen to my advice, you're like, I have a newsletter. I send out a newsletter once a month. Well, a newsletter is only valuable if you strategically decided what's going to go in the newsletter. So your email marketing strategy has to have a purpose. For example, last week I talked about the Get Clients Now system, which we're going to be discussing on our workshop on May 11th. So Monday, May 11th, we're doing a full-day workshop. I talked about it at the beginning of this episode. And if you want to sign up for it, you can go to profitwithlaw.com/Get Clients Now. In the Get Clients Now workshop, we're doing an entire section on a series of emails. So 5 emails that you can write that go to a new lead when they come through the door. Now, the purpose of that email sequence is to warm that person up to you, your brand, the problem that you solve, and highlighting how you can solve that problem for them. You're taking them on a journey in those emails, in that sequence of emails. You're taking them on a journey that's bringing them closer to working with you. Now, that has a very specific purpose. It's called warming up a prospect. So we're basically warming them up to you as a brand, to you as a person, to the sometimes they don't know about the solution you provide, right? So sometimes they know that they have a problem, but they don't know what the solution is. So you're also introducing the solution. You're warming them up to the solution. Sometimes they know the solution, but they need to know why you. Why are you the right provider of that solution? So, we want to address all those things in that email sequence. So that is a very specific purpose. Now, other email campaigns like a regular newsletter or some other routine marketing is what we call a drip campaign, or a campaign that happens over time, and it's essentially to keep your list warm. And these are marketing terms, marketing terminology, but if you could think about it, when an email address goes cold, it means that you waited too long and they don't remember who you are. A warm address is somebody who, they're warmed up to you. They see your name. They want to see what you have to say. They're going to open the email. So you want to continue to send emails regularly to keep your subscriber list warm. And over time, emails are going to, people are going to fall off the map. They stop opening your emails. So that's what creates this situation where only a percentage of your email subscribers open your emails. And that percentage can range anywhere from, 0, obviously, to something. But industry standards, somewhere between 10 and 15, 20% is considered good. Here at Profit with Law, the law firm Growth Summit, we have open rates that are well above 30%, so between 30 and 40%, because our listeners, you guys, and our attendees at our events are very dialed into our messaging. They're there for a reason, and therefore when we send an email, when I share something with them, they're interested. Now, still, it's only 30%, 35%. What about all the rest of the people? If I got 1,000 people on the list, that's 350 people who are interested. What about the other 650 people? So the other thing to understand is that not every email you send is going to get opened, even if it's a warm subscriber. Some stuff gets stuck in spam, so it never gets delivered. Some stuff ends up, if they have a Gmail account, it ends up in the promotions tab or the social tab and doesn't actually go into their primary inbox. And sometimes they simply miss it, or they look at it and say, I want to read that. And then they forget. And 2 hours later, you're on page 2 and they never get to it. So you also have to remember that when you're emailing, especially if you're emailing with a purpose, it might take more than one email to get the message across that you're trying to get, which is why when we have somebody who's a new lead, we want to send them a series of emails. We want to send them at least 5 emails so that we know that they're going to open some of them. They may not open all of them, but at least they'll open 1 or 2 or 3 of them, which will increase the likelihood of us continuing this conversation. So I think that is another key factor in your email marketing, is to understand what the purpose of the email is in general, and make sure that you're using that purpose to write the email, that you have intent when you're writing the email of what it is that you're trying to get across to the email subscriber. The last thing I'm going to share with you is the actual email itself. So there's really important functions of the email. So you have the subject line. Now, the purpose of the subject line is to get them to open the email. So a big mistake that people make is they just don't make the subject line compelling enough. If you write in the subject line, newsletter volume 27, January 2020, and that's your subject line, ain't nobody opening that. Now, if instead you put in brackets newsletter, and then you put after it the 3 mistakes that, let's say your target client, I gotta use a specific example. Let's say your target client is you're in criminal law. So your subject line is the 3 mistakes that parolees make every January. Well, somebody who's a parolee and gets that email is going to be like, oh, what are the 3 mistakes? I better open this and read it, right? So you're creating curiosity from the headline that is going to drive an open of the email. So the subject line's purpose is to get them to open the email. Now, if you treat the writing of the email, the rest of the email the same way, then you'll understand how to write an email. So the very first opening paragraph in an email is to get them to read the rest of the email. And then the rest of the email is to get them to take the action that you want them to take at the end of the email. So if that action is to call your office, then you want your subject in the middle, your meat and potatoes of the email, to drive them to have a discussion with you. So maybe you're going to share a really crucial piece of information that might bring into question their status of something, and therefore they need to get on the phone with you and talk about it. And then you go and you put that call to action at the end. To book a call with us, click this link and, get on our calendar or press it or dial our phone number and call us, and you get the idea. So hopefully this was helpful for you in understanding a little bit more about the concept of emailing. Now, we didn't cover at all how this emailing happens with software. There's specialized software that you can use to send these emails for you. Many of you are already using software, but if you're not, that could be a subject for another episode of the podcast. But along with showing you how to write a series of 5 email sequence, we're also going to show you how to use email software and actually walk you through implementing that in our workshop coming up on Monday, May 11th. So that's the Get Clients Now workshop. And if you want to check out the schedule and everything we have planned, go to profitwithlaw.com/Get Clients Now, profitwithlaw.com/Get Clients Now. And you want to act quickly because Monday, May 11th is less than a week away. And you would like to get this information from us firsthand. So definitely go check it out. It is $97 for you guys, and it's a ton of value, way more than the cost of $97. But we wanted to bring it to you. It's answering the number one question that's been asked over and over again throughout the COVID livestream series. We want to make sure that we can help you with fixing this gap that many law firm owners have. So join us there. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on Thursday. We've got a great interview coming up. Looking forward to sharing that with you. Take care. Thank you for tuning into the Profit with Law podcast. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us, as well as helping us reach more people with this valuable content. Please leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast directory. Join us again next time when we are back with even more strategies to profit with law.